And indeed, art, food, and soul is where it's at. And it's right here tonight on Communication Corner. Tonight, joining me is the artistic director and founder of Art, Food, and Soul, Samantha Inniss. Good evening, Samantha.
Hello, Gail.
Pleasure to have you here on Communication Corner tonight. Thanks for joining us. Just watched the video clip. I'm already in love. Art, Food, and Soul. Tell me exactly what that is.
It's just what the title says. It's all things art. It's a multi-art event, including food as a culinary art. And the soul part is basically us bearing our souls in discussion about how the art influenced us, encouraged us, entertained us, uplifted us, and motivated us. So it's something that I came up with to give back to my own community, Jamaica, Queens, and where I was born and raised, and I saw a void in the community, and I thought this would be the best way to fill that void is with art.
Okay, so let's take a few steps back. You saw a void in your community, and that's Jamaica, Queens, and you thought you'd fill that void with art. What was the void? What's missing?
Well, growing up in Jamaica, Queens, I noticed we have things to do, but a lot of times I didn't feel that the artists of the community knew where to go. And then in looking in the history of the community, a lot of the artists that we had living in the community, whether it be jazz musicians, rappers, actors, a lot of times they always had to go to the other borough, the city, Manhattan, to perform. And then as time went on, it was now Brooklyn that they were going to. And I'm also an artist myself, a performance artist, and that's where I was always going. So I said there's not enough places around in the community for us to just be free to show our art and also get that exposure and give the community just something different to see. Right. Because historically we do have different organizations in the community that have been there for a long period of time, but it just didn't seem like everybody knew what was going on. So what I decided to do to make it benefit everyone was start off my multi-art events in collaborating with other organizations. Right. So the first place I went when I started was Shashama Art Gallery.
Shashama Art Gallery, and that's in Jamaica, Queens, where?
Well, at the time it was located on 90th Avenue and 161st Street. It's no longer there, but it was just me all by myself, just trying to figure out how can I get this going. So I kind of walked around the community to see who I can kind of work with and needed that foot traffic. Right. So I've already been kind of producing events with different organizations as a social worker because that was my day job at the time. And I said, I have to see another way where I can still work with the arts and kind of collaborate with creating the social work side of it. Right. So I started off with Shashama Gallery, and I put the events together there. They mostly had visual artists at the time, and it just worked. Wow. It was a small little studio. It fit about maybe 30 people standing up, but we packed it with maybe about 50 to 55 people sometimes.
So the fire department was not happy?
No, they didn't even see it, but even though some police would pass by, they joined. Okay. So it was just something that was very welcomed to the community. It was just a perfect location at the time, and we had just everybody just walk off the street sometimes and just wonder, what is this? Because we had these big windows at the time, and it just worked. I was always very strategic in what to bring to the community that was just a little different than what we're used to hearing about Jamaica, Queens, just being known for rappers. Right. And I said, there's so much more to Jamaica, Queens, and I will mix it in with maybe some hip hop, some visual artists, some graffiti artists, poets, and the food. Food brings people together, and it keeps people there the whole entire time. And at the same time, we'll have a DJ that will kind of complement the whole atmosphere. Right. Nobody wanted to leave. It was just real good vibes.
Awesome.
So I said, I got to keep this going, because that was my first time, and it was just experimenting.
And when did you guys start?
We started officially, it was April 2011. Yeah, because it was really hard. I actually kind of put the whole brainchild together in May 2010 and kept trying to work it out in different ways, but officially April 2011 at Shashama Gallery.
That was your first big event.
First big event. And after that, we kept doing it monthly. The numbers kept growing, and pretty much all I did was just get the word out there through the social networks at the time, and on foot, and called all my artist friends that I performed with from the Brooklyn scene and the city scene, and they just all came out. Because normally, you know, Queens is too far for everybody, but they made the trip, because that's the feeling people get from art. It brings people together. So once that first event went off that way, and the featured artists that I had were from the other boroughs, and it just took off. Like, it was springtime, and it was really, really hot, but like, as we went into the summer months, it just kept getting more packed, and regardless of the sweat, you know, the funk, the odor, whatever, it was just like everybody was just enjoying the vibes, and we just stayed. Like, it was hard to even get people out.
I love it.
And that's what I love. That's what I love. It just felt good.
So walk us through just a typical art, food, and soul event. What can I expect from beginning to end?
Well, each event, I always have different themes based on the month, based on what I'm feeling, but each event I started off with an open mic. Let the community get on the mic, rhyme, do some poetry, sing, play guitar, whatever it is. Let the community just showcase their art, whether it's good or bad. Just let everybody get that freedom of expression. Then I go right into the featured artists. So the featured artists that I normally pick are just somebody who's pretty well known, emerging on the scene, and has made itself on the underground scene of New York City. And
so maybe not a mainstream artist, but someone who's just on the fringe.
On the fringe, right. So New York City scene, sometimes I've had some come from Philly, some from New Jersey, and I will have that right after the open mic. And then,
so what would they do? Perform or?
Yes. Yeah. They'll perform. So I have the featured artists perform, and right after.
So would that be like a dance number, or could it be actual art?
It could be anything. I will have a visual artist behind an actor performing a monologue, and then right after the actor, I'll have a poet come on, and those will be my groups of featured artists that I'll have in that time slot, while the visual painter may be doing a live painting right behind them, based on whatever is just inspire them off of what they're hearing. So it can be a lot of different themes that I'll have for each month, and I'll just kind of get a group of artists that will show different forms of art.
Of that theme, around that theme.
Okay. Right.
So then after that art part, so first there was the open mic,
then featured artists, and then we go right into just breaking for network time, and we have a culinary artist complement that time period. So the culinary artist will do like a taste testing.
So culinary artist, let me break it down. That's a chef.
Yes. Okay. A chef, a cook, anybody who started their catering business. I will have somebody else who's emerging on the scene as well. And you know, if I hear, you know, the food is good, the food is orgasmic, you know, they have this term called food porn. This is what foodgasms, all these different things. Well, I'm like, okay, well, I got to get this person, and I will have them do like a taste testing of their food to complement the event while everybody's networking. And it, as I said, the food just brings the people together, and at the same time, this artist is getting exposure as well to a community that may not be familiar with them. And that is pretty much the setup. While the DJ's playing, I'll have a featured DJ as well to just kind of bring that atmosphere and kind of
Make it more
compliment.
like a party.
Yeah, exactly. And it just helps people to open up, talk with the artists, find out where they're performing next. So these artists also get to showcase their work to a community that's not familiar with them, and that community may go ahead and then follow them at their next event, wherever they're showcasing their work next. And at the same time, it just kind of works for the community. I never knew who came through the doors. So sometimes it could be...
What do you mean? Like the artists or the patrons?
Well, the patrons. Okay. Yeah, pretty much both. But the patrons, like at times I noticed that artists were pulled in for other charity events and other organizations in the community. Like people were just so moved and they're like, I have to have you for my event.
Right.
So it just worked for everybody.
So there was that networking aspect to it, definitely.
Yeah, I always had to have the networking aspect to it. Culinary artists will get used again for other events in the community.
Get big catering gig or something.
Exactly. So I'm like, I just had to make this kind of work for everybody. Let this be a community event, because that was something else I felt in Jamaica Queens, like we were kind of missing that. And I'm an 80s baby. That was something I always used to see, but it kind of started to disappear, and we were being known for just the hip-hop scene, and then the hip-hop's connected to the violence of what was going on in the community. And I'm like, art is therapeutic, and it's something that can be a resource to the community as well. And that's how I kind of put it all together.
So you take art, food, and soul, and you take the program, which is the open mic, and then the artists, and then the food, so the three parts, the art, food, and the soul, and you take them to different venues. Is that, so I guess you're traveling, is that?
Yeah, it's Jamaica Queens based, and I travel throughout the community.
Where are some of the venues you've played?
Shoshama Gallery being the first.
And that was the kickoff.
Right. Harvest Room in the Jamaica Market.
Right downtown Jamaica.
Also the Sean Bell Community Center.
Yeah, R.I.P. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, it's no longer with, well, this community center is no longer with us.
Right.
Maybe we can bring it back.
But that was...
And J-Cal or
And
J-Pac?
J-Cal and J-Pac, yeah. So that's where I was doing my most recent events, and I'm ready to kind of transition into a new phase.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. But we do have a clip of your jump-off event, which I really like. So we can show that. Your jump-off, your very first
the launch
of Art, Food, and Soul. Let's take a look at that clip if we can. Art, Food, and Soul, the jump-off event.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for coming out tonight. Give yourself a round of applause for just being here. Peace and blessings. My name is Henry, aka Distinguished. Glad to be here. Glad to see some familiar faces. Without further ado, I start the open mic. She's the reason why I'm up here and standing in front of you guys. So clap it up for Samantha.
I'm trying to just introduce my business to the community. I'm born and raised here in Jamaica, Queens, and I want to give back in a big way. Thank you. Give it up for Queens. My business, Art, Food, and Soul. I'm just trying to bring a different type of vibe here in the Jamaica Queens community. You shouldn't have to go all the away from Queens to Brooklyn, Manhattan for the arts. We're going to continue tonight. I hope you all enjoyed, and as I said, whatever you can give, it just helps us. Your proceeds will just help us to make the next event bigger and better. So please help and support, okay?
Samantha.
Thank you.
One of the things I love in this video, that's why I wanted us to see it, is that you can really see and just get a real taste from that video of just this cross-section of Jamaica, Queens, this cross-section of New York City, this cross-section of our society from that video. No two people in that video look the same. Talk to me about who your audience is.
That is definitely my goal with each event, was to bring the young, the elders.
We saw at the very end, we saw a baby on the floor.
All together in one room, especially the diversity of Jamaica, Queens. We have so many different cultures, races. I just want the art to kind of complement that so that we can all bare our souls in discussion about how that art influenced us. And I seem to have always reached that goal with each event.
Yeah.
Because that's the social work side of me. So that's my background, social work and the arts. And it was me trying to kind of combine that together to see how I can just basically have like a therapy for the community.
Right, and therapy through art?
Through art. Everybody in one room just discussing, like the artists that I have, they're kind of in that category of conscious artists. So it's almost like edutainment. Yeah, so it always sparked a discussion.
Right.
So we'll have like a feedback with the artist at the end and the artist with the audience. And it was just always something where it never went off bad. It was just everybody had an opinion, but you create an atmosphere where everybody's very comfortable to say how they feel, how the art made them feel, how a lyric in a song made them feel.
Or a poem, or poem, spoken word.
Exactly. And you will find all these different feelings that they have, and sometimes the feelings can relate to what's going on in society, politics, race, sexuality, and everybody's discussing it, and everybody's just feeling a little different at the end of the event.
Right.
It kind of brings people together instead of dividing us.
Art brings people together.
It does. It does.
Also in that video, we saw different types of art. We saw, and excuse my ignorance with the terms, but more of a physical art, like a sculpture. We saw paintings. Of course, all the different genres that you provide, spoken word, etc. As an artist yourself, what kind of what kind of artist are you?
Acting and spoken word, and kind of combine it together. So I prefer to call it performance art.
Okay. Have you been in anything we might have seen as an actor?
More independent films and background work in television, as well as some off-Broadway plays and things that I wrote myself.
Okay. So you write yourself. Have you, through Art, Food, and Soul, actually performed anything of your own?
Just one time, just because the audience was asking for it, but I really like to try to make it just for other artists.
And what was that you performed?
It was a poem that I had performed 2 years ago called Equilibrium, and it was kind of just based off of just all the issues that were going on about race right after the Trayvon Martin incident. Yeah.
Right. And it just kind of all summed it up for you.
Summed it up, exactly.
Okay. So there's all these different types of art, like we saw in the video. In an art gallery, you dabble in all these different types of arts, both personally and with your organization. Even though there's all these different types of art and artistic expression, is there some sort of common denominator that just holds everything together?
A common denominator that holds everything together.
As far as art?
Just the art itself. I think that everything around the art, it just holds everything together. Like, there's not like one common denominator I can't really point out, but the art itself just holds everything together.
So the arts just kind of hold it all together.
Yeah, it just brings everything together.
So I know that with Art, Food, and Soul, you go into different venues, JCal, JPAC, all of these other places in Jamaica, Queens, and you put on a show, Art, Food, and Soul. Since it is kind of a traveling show, would you take it other places as well?
I have struggled with that for a while.
So outside of the boundaries of Jamaica, Queens?
Yes, I am thinking of that right now for the new year.
Like on a pop-up type of basis?
Yes. I actually have an idea to maybe produce these events in other venues across the boroughs. I've been offered those opportunities many times because I also collaborate with other organizations that have art, or whether it's something that is just to get people aware. So that's the whole social work aspect that I kind of sneak in there. So I've had different organizations like Act Now Vote, Five Borough Story Project.
Yeah, I went to one of those, it's great.
Right, who will just come in and collaborate with me, and they're doing things in other boroughs. So I try to always just slip something else in. So I've been offered many times to maybe try it in other communities across the boroughs and also outside of the country.
Okay, speak to outside of the country.
Well, the same void that I saw in Jamaica, Queens, I see that in a lot of other places.
So that void exists in other parts of the country, other parts of the city, and other parts of the world. Okay.
Exactly.
Including where?
So I recently went to visit my family's country, Barbados, in November.
Barbados, West Indies, right?
Yes, Barbados, West Indies. And I noticed in meeting with a lot of the artists there who follow the Art, Food, and Soul page and stuff, I said, I just want to just check the art scene.
Right.
Let this trip be more than just meeting family. Let's check the art scene. And I noticed that a lot of the artists there just seemed like they weren't feeling supported.
So those are the same type of artists that we have here. So
right.
Those physical arts, spoken word.
Exactly. And they felt that they needed more exposure, and they didn't really know where else to go on the island. So they said something else is needed here. And they mostly will just pop up on a beach and sell to tourists. And it sounds awesome to us here, but it's not enough. These artists are, I hate the term starving artists, but you want to live off your art as if it's your own work. This is what you're passionate about, and it feels good coming to work every day doing something you're passionate about.
So you want to live off your art as if you were an accountant or...
Exactly.
So, or a social worker, whatever you're...
Right.
Or
these
teacher.
artists work every day on the grind, trying to get their art out there, selling it out of the trunk of a car, on the street, on the beach. So they're looking for that outlet as well. And I noticed something that I was missing was knowing a little bit more about the arts and culture scene in Barbados. And my family wasn't very aware, but I know they were very artistic, and I guess that's where it got in my genes. So I said, you know what, maybe I could do this here, and if that works there, then I could do it anywhere. I mean, try it in other places. So I was speaking with a lot of the artists as well as the cultural ambassador of Barbados. He is a legendary calypsonian
Who's
from
that?
Barbados. His name is the Mighty Gabby.
Okay.
And he goes back from the 50s to the present time. He is somebody that represents Barbados alongside with Rihanna. And I presented the idea to him that, you know, it's something that I notice everybody, a lot of the artists feel that's a void, and what do you think? And he said, yes, definitely. We have so much activity on the island for different festivals, but I'm thinking maybe I will do it sometime between our major festival, which is Carnival, and then Independence Day.
So we'll look for it next year.
I hope so. I'm working on a lot of different projects right now.
So now that everyone's excited about Art, Food, and Soul, where can we get some more information about it?
Definitely go to www.artfoodandsoul.com.
Artfoodandsoul.com. Can we email you?
Yes, you can. artfoodandsoul@gmail.com, as well as follow the Facebook, follow the Twitter.
Right. Where are you on Twitter? At Art, Food, and Soul?
Yes.
Is that A-N-D or the ampersand?
Art, Food, and, oh my God, I forgot. Yeah.
Okay. Art, Food, and Soul on Twitter as well. Thank you so much, Samantha.
Thank you.
We're going to look for you on Twitter. We're going to follow you on Facebook. We're going to go to your website. And more importantly, we're going to attend Art, Food, and Soul events.
Yes.
For some people, the trifecta is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But tonight, we talked about our trifecta right here in Queens. Art, Food, and Soul. Thanks for joining me here on Communication Corner tonight. For more information, always feel free to email me, Gail Lewis, newday2010@yahoo.com. For everyone here at Communication Corner and for Samantha Inniss from Art, Food, and Soul, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great evening and good night.
Thanks, sweetie.
Thank you.